All right, gents, we're a bit hung chatty, as you guys saw the videos that we sent to Discord last night. But let's get a little trade recap going. Just because I really like what happened today, and I like how we reacted to market conditions, and I want to just put this out here because I think there's very valuable things to come out of this. So, sorry for the low energy, first of all, but let's get into this. So, we came up and we're at all-time highs right now. So starting off on the weekly time frame to make a little bias for you, right? Of course, the higher time frame, I'm always going to maintain a bullish bias when we tap into a weekly bullish gap, right? We're at all-time highs. Tap into a weekly bullish gap. That's a super strong bullish confluence. But coming into the morning, when I woke up, we had already tapped into this daily bearish gap, and we took out previous day high. So, do longs look A plus? No, definitely not coming into the morning. Now, what else happened? If I look at the 4-hour chart, we are kind of just moving sideways. Nothing crazy going on, but I definitely see that we keep disrespecting this level right here, okay? Every time we come up and we tap into it, we push down lower. Right here, came up, tapped into it, pushed down lower. Right here, wicked up, rejected it, came down lower. Then again, we come up and we tap into the same level and we see the same reaction out of it on NQ, right? Sorry, I'm gonna make this a little bigger so you guys can see that. So this level right here, we just keep seeing rejections out of. So then, let me scale into a lower time frame. I'm aware of these things, right? I'm not necessarily like just talking about it 24/7, but I'm aware that we just tapped into that key level. And then I go into the lower time frame and I see that we are chopping around, we're moving sideways, but we do have an unfilled hourly bearish gap right here on both NQ and yes, right? So we have this hourly bearish gap. I'm very interested in this hourly bearish gap because coming into market open, this was unfilled. So then I just wait for market to open, which happened right here. Okay, so these dashed lines are market open. And obviously, as you can see, before market open, we are really just chopping around, right? Asia made a great move down and then just pre-market chopped around, even market open chopped around. So when I see a move sideways, what do? The first thing I do is I mark out that range because now I have a range which is my accumulation range. Make it a different color. Okay, so now this is my accumulation range, and what I always tell myself is that when we are in an accumulation range, it's always best to not touch anything until we break out of the range, because once we break out of the range, not only are things going to start cleaning up, but we are going to get an AMD setup. So for anyone that doesn't know what AMD is, it is accumulation, manipulation, distribution. So AMD can look like this: accumulation, manipulation, distribution. Or AMD can look like this: same thing but reversed: accumulation, manipulation lower, take out the lows, and distributes higher, right? So these are the two AMD setups. Now, that's kind of exactly what I was waiting for. So since we had an hourly bearish gap above, I waited for price to break out of this range to the upside, right? Not to the downside, because there weren't any really good targets above that I liked, considering that we were rejecting off of this 4-hour key level that I was talking to you guys before. So I just waited for that to happen. We came up, swept the highs, and then what did we have here? Right, so this is accumulation. This long move up would be the manipulation, and then now we're in the process of getting the distribution. So if I look at the chart, we came up on the way up to manipulate out of the range. We created a 5-minute bullish gap that is marked out with this green line right here. So we created a 5-minute bullish gap, and then we had a 3-minute inverse mech model targeting the unfilled 5. Okay, so if you don't know what mech model is, it's when you take an inverse fair value gap targeting an unfilled gap. But it has to be the highest time frame inverse in between where price is right now and the unfilled gap you are targeting. So if there's a 5 minute bullish gap that I'm targeting for shorts, right? I check the 1 minute, right? There's a 1 minute inverse. Am I taking the 1 minute? No, because there's a 2 minute. Am I taking the inverse off the 2 minute? No, because there's a 3 minute, right? So I want to make sure I'm taking the highest time frame one in between price and the unfilled gap. So I wait for the 3 minute to get inversed. Is there a 4 minute? No, right? So I know that the 3 minute is the highest time frame one. So this is my trade. We get the 3 minute inverse to the downside. And we had a nice wick right here that I marked as my stop loss, right? I thought that was a pretty strong wick rejection off the 1 minute bearish gap. So I put my stop right there. And then TP1 was at a 1-to-1. Okay, so people took out profits at a 1-to-1 on stream. But what I was looking for is price to come down to, what is this low? I was looking for price to come down to these lows right here. Okay, so what ended up happening, it hit the unfilled 5 minute bearish gap. So the mech model technically already played out. At that point, I went break even and just let it run. What happened? Price came up, tapped my break even, and then delivered all the way down. NQ at that time took out these lows that I was marking out. So the second that NQ took out that low, that was my plan to full close on ES, right? So, but at that point, I had already gotten break even after hitting a 1-to-1. So not a bad day. I'm just really happy that like we were able to stay away from bad conditions and we didn't FOMO into anything, because it would have been really, really easy. And like, dude, personally, this is like was one of my biggest issues. Like when I started trading, not realizing that I'm trading chop, not realizing that I'm trying to trade when the conditions are not favorable. And that is something that is going to ruin your win rate. It's going to make you take low probability trades, when in reality, you should just step away from the charts, or at least set conditions that only allow you to trade once the chop is over, right? So that's why when I come into a morning like this and I see that we're moving sideways in pre-market, I mark out the range. And I tell myself I'm not touching anything until we break out of this range and price cleans up. That's the only way to save yourself from trying to guess where the market is going to go, right? I don't want to guess. I want to feel confident in my trade. I want to have conviction in the trade and not regret this trade, right? Even if I lost this trade, that would have been a great trade, because it's a classic AMD setup with a mech model included within the AMD setup, right? That's an A+ trade for me. And then as soon as NQ took out the low, I would have full closed probably somewhere around here. So it would have been a nice 1-to-2 banger if I didn't get break even after the 1-to-1. So I'm just happy about that. Wanted to make a little trade recap so you guys understand my thought process of taking a short, even though we are at all-time highs. It's because of this 4-hour level on NQ that we've just been rejecting off of. It's because of the fact that we tapped into this daily bearish gap and we took out previous day high. And it's also because of the fact that we waited for market to manipulate it out of the range, tap into an hourly bearish gap. So that's like 4 very strong bearish confluences. Then you add in the strategy, which is the AMD setup. And then you add in the mech model execution strategy, which is our entry, the 3-minute inverse to unfilled 5, on top of the AMD, on top of all the bearish confluences. This is an A+ setup. And I'm just, want you guys to see that. So I will catch you guys tomorrow for more live trading. Remember, Alpha is 50% off right now, so make sure to smack those accounts. Alpha will not be 50% off for a very long time, so make sure to rip it. Code SPAG. Love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.